Pretty much every YouTube video I see on YouTube when it comes to making a living as a producer, it just talks about selling cheap ass beats to cheap artists. And for some of you that may be your only option. Maybe you're a beat maker, that's all you do, and you want to sell beats and do some placements maybe, whatever. Or they tell you have to have a gazillion different revenue streams to actually make a decent living. And I wanted to make this video to give you a perspective, a different perspective from someone whose sole living is helping people build music production businesses, because there's not really a lot out there for you guys who may produce pop or electronic music or work with rock artists or whatever it is. And you may have come across the stuff online, you're trying to figure it out, and the only thing you see is selling beats, leasing beats, and maybe you've gotten wrapped up in that spider web. And I just want to show you what I feel is the better option, okay? Especially if you don't have a massive audience. And that's kind of the caveat. If you have a big audience, you can probably do okay selling a bunch of cheap products. But for most of you, you don't have that. So the market that you are kind of leaving out is that there are artists, indie artists, maybe they are, singers, vocalists, songwriters, and they need to hire a producer to actually produce them a song, okay? So they're not looking for beats. They don't buy beats. They need more than just a beat. They need a producer. And based on what you do, again, maybe you co-write with artists, maybe you can produce the track, maybe you can do the mixing and mastering, or you can loop in other people. Maybe there's other things that you do with artists. You have a way higher chance of actually helping this artist do something, okay, versus a beat. A beat is very transactional. Everyone can do it. You have the opportunity to sort of set yourself apart because everyone's going to have their own flavor, background, experience, and and how they work with artists and with clients. And it isn't weird for artists to pay $1,000 or even up to $2,000 a song. And I'm talking about independent artists. I know some of you are thinking like, okay, that's not a thing. And just because you haven't done it doesn't mean it's not a thing, right? Just like labels hire producers to produce songs, so do independent artists, because if they don't have a label, then they're funding their records, okay? And a lot of them don't want beats that other artists have used, or they've already written something and they need someone to create something to that. This is a massive market. Rappers on YouTube buying beats are not the only thing that's out there. It's just the popular thing that's being sold to you right now. And again, in my opinion, it's a very tough way to do it. Generally, the lower cost the product or service, the harder it is to make a living at it. Unless, again, you have a massive audience. And a lot of these guys that you're listening to have a massive audience. So they're like, yeah, here's what we did. Here's what we did to build the audience. But if you do all that work, marketing, networking, all that kind of stuff, would you rather do all that work to sell a $20 beat here and there, or to have an artist actually pay you to produce a song? Okay? I'll show you a couple examples here so you know that I'm not just making this up. First screenshot here, one of my clients, and by the way, I'm not trying to sell you a course or anything, okay? Just want to show you that this is a real thing. One of my clients, Kevin, who's based in Atlanta, was trying to do the beat thing. He came in and started working with me in July of 2019. And as you can see here, by January of 2020, 6 months later, he's booked, $10,000 to $15,000 of new work. And this is part-time. He still has a full-time job, okay? We got a little bit more work we need to do with him before we make that transition. So that might sound like kind of crazy and like, oh my gosh, but with all the marketing and networking, all this kind of shit that you're doing anyway, that's only 15 artists. That's meeting 15 artists who say, yeah, man, like, I want you to produce my song. Okay, here's like what I got, here are the ideas, I want you to produce it. Okay, if you're selling $20 beats, you'd have to make 750 sales to make that same thing. That's probably not going to happen, especially not going to happen in 6 months, unless you're pumping a ton of money into paid ads or something. But most of you don't have that, or you're struggling to even make that work. All right, so it just makes more financial sense. Remember that, I'll say it one more time, the cheaper the product or service is, the harder it is to make money with it. Most people think that because it's cheaper, it's easier, but the cheap market is the most competitive market. Everyone's in the cheap market. Everyone has their beats online, okay? And all it takes is for some website to come out. Here's an idea for you. That's, $15 a month, and it has AI cranking out beats, and it's, unlimited beats. That's all it takes, and it knocks pretty much 90% of the market out, because why would an artist just go there and use that? Now, the guys with brand and audience, it won't affect them as much probably, but everyone else, you guys are just too vulnerable. Okay? So why not actually go out and produce artists if you're able to? If you're, you do top 40 kind of stuff, pop stuff, electronic, rock, pop rock, whatever. Produce artists. Okay? Just because you may have tried the beat thing and you think all artists are cheap and broke and don't have money, that's not true. It's just that's the market you're playing in, so why are you expecting, something different? But there's a huge market over here of artists that hire producers. And one of the other reasons I want to make this video is because I talk to a lot of folks who reach out to me through this channel. Not a lot, it's not a big channel, but 20 or 30 over the past month, and a lot of them reach out to me to talk about sample packs. I'm happy to talk about sample packs, but we talk about their production business, and they're cool producers. They're awesome. Like, yeah, I'm trying to sell the beat thing. It's hard. It's this. I'm like, dude, produce songs for artists. What are you doing? Like, your shit's awesome, man. Like, they have great tracks. And they're like, what are you talking about? Like a label? No, man, not a label. Artists. There are artists, singers, songwriters, people that create songs that need producers to produce the song. So yeah, it just sort of shocked me a bit that people didn't realize that this was a thing. And I get it. I think most people, especially if you're younger, you came up producing and then you get online and you start searching, well, how do I make a living doing this? And all you see is these beat things. And you think that's the only way to do it. So I'm here to show you that it's not. Some of you may be thinking, okay, well, Dan, do I have to live in a music city to do this? It's like, no, you can do it online. Pretty much most of my clients, I'd say 80 to 90% of their clients are online. When I built my first music production business, it was all online back in 2012. So we had over 800 clients in over 25 different countries that all paid us to produce songs for them. It ended up being a 7-figure business, and only within 4 or 5 years as well. There's I have videos on the channel that show bank statements and go through all that. But online is it's the same thing. It's just that instead of you making a bunch of beats and selling, putting them in a library and someone going in and licensing them, you're linking up with an artist. Maybe they are, sending over an idea. Hey, here's what I have. You are taking that idea, producing a track to it. Usually, you might also help with this part. Maybe you also write or, arrange. You want to help them with that piece first. Make sure it's good and groovy. Produce the track. They record locally or at home or whatever they do. Send it back to you and, do the final stuff, right? Mix, mastering. Or if you don't do that stuff, maybe you build someone else into the project. But again, people pay $1 to $2K for this all the time. All the time. If you don't feel comfortable with that, fine. Do it for $500. It's still better economics than trying to sell a gazillion beats, okay? If you talk to 10 artists, you can get one of them to pay you $500. If you talk to 10 artists and get one of them to pay you $20, then you're going to get burned out. It just makes more sense. Then once you have an audience, once you have a lot of people that follow you and all that kind of stuff, sure, then you can experiment with like the lower price stuff. Again, I'm not against beats. I'm not against any of this stuff. It's just the sequence of how you do things matters in business. Okay? So in most cases, if someone has the skills to do this, this is where they need to be, not trying to sell beats for pennies. It's just a real tough game unless you have a lot of people that, a lot of buyers. The reason I like this though too, speaking of that, is that you can make more of an impact with the artist that you're working with. Okay? Like you can be a guide to them. You can help them get through a lot of people buy beats, they never do anything with it. Selling beats, it's very transactional. You're not doing anything for the artist. They're getting a piece of music. It's like, well, what if they make it shitty? What if their song sucks that they write to it? What if they never finish it or get it done? That doesn't really do much for you as a producer, and you're not really doing much for the artist. I'd say 20 beats for that, $20 for that's probably fair. It's not that much going on. It's not that special nowadays. But if you're teaming up with an artist, they're paying you to create this, just like a label would, right? Except that, these are independent artists, so they're generally funding their projects. You have more of an impact on them, and they're most likely to come back and work with you on a couple of singles a year, or maybe they do an album with you, and before you know it, you have 20, 30 of those clients. You have a big business. You have a pretty nice business. For example, here, I'll pull up another example. This is John True, who's in San Diego, and he's a great producer, piano player, does kind of, indie pop, electronic stuff, and also does some kind of alternative stuff too. And he came to me, he's like, hey Dan, I can produce, but like I don't, what do I do? And I'm like, well, work with artists. There's a gazillion artists on the internet and they need producers. So as you can see here, 10, 12 months later after we started working with each other, it was a little slow in the beginning, but now we're a year into it and he's doing $6,000 a month consistently. So $70,000 a year run rate in a year. And that's because he just found artists who are a fit for him, that can pay, that will pay that much to have their song produced, all that. And now he has a bunch. A lot of those are even recurring revenue clients. So they've already committed to doing 5, 6, 7 songs a year with him. So hope that makes sense. Hope that model makes sense. Now, I do want to also mention online. Obviously, you can do this local if you have clients, if there's artists there. But listen, if you can do more than just make a beat and put it on YouTube, then this is the model you want to do, okay? It's way easier until you have an audience, and then you can spread out into other stuff. But if you can produce a song, or you help write, or you can take an artist and produce a song start to finish, or take their idea and create it into something, that is worth paying for. Pretty much everyone can make a beat now. Not discrediting it. It's a talent. It takes skill. I get it. But you just have to look at the reality. Like when a bunch of people can do it, it's just not worth that much anymore. It's just not worth that much. But with this, you can really create an experience for the client and help them do stuff way beyond just making a track for them. And especially a track that a bunch of other artists are going to have the same thing, which that gets into a whole nother weird legal discussion. But there's artists out here that need this. You just see this, which is the artists that buy beats, because that's what's popular online and that's what guys trying to sell you courses are going to push. And of course, there's a handful of people that have made a good living doing that, and that's cool. But there's a bigger pool of artists that actually hire producers to produce songs. That's been going on since way before the online beat thing. That's kind of how it's always been done. So I encourage you to check that out. If you have questions about it, feel free to hop on the phone with me for 15 minutes. I'll run you through it. Check out the other videos on my channel. We talk about how to actually produce a song for a client. I break down numbers for you, the economics of a production business, what that looks like. What else do we have? Oh, where to find high budget clients, all that kind of stuff. Stuff's on the channel. hope that helps. Hope that gives you a different perspective. I saw one too many beat leasing videos, and I was like, all right, I got to hop in and at least let people know that there's another model that they'll make a lot more money doing. So hope that helps, and have a good one.